Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Dr. Baher Fuad, and the subject today is what do we learn from Quranic stories? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran relates to us نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. We relate to you the best of stories as we relate to you this Quran, and before this Quran came to you, you were among those who were not aware. Al-ayah fi Surah Yusuf, chapter 12 in the Quran. And the purpose or the goal of the Quranic story that we learn from the story. Learn the mistakes that others have made so we avoid them. Learn the good behavior so we can follow their good behavior. And learn morals and lessons that we can apply in our life. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, in their stories was a moral for those of understanding. So let's talk about the story of Sayyidina Yusuf, Prophet Joseph in the Quran. Prophet Joseph was one of 12 children, and his father was Prophet Yaqub or Jacob, who is Israel, the son of Ishaq, and the grandson of Prophet Abraham, peace be upon all of them. Now, Joseph's brothers were jealous. They felt that their father preferred Joseph to them, so they plotted in order to kill him. Finally, they threw him in the well. They did not ask themselves why their father preferred Joseph. Maybe because he was more kind, more loving, maybe because they were selfish, and sometimes we do not think, and we may feel that our bad deeds are really a way of us to be smart to gain ahead. أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا. Is the person to whom his evil deeds seem pleasing in his eyes the same as the one who is righteous? Of course not. But sometimes this escapes us. Now, they lied to their father. وجاءوا أباهم عشاء يبكون قالوا يا أبانا إنا تركنا يوسف عند متاعنا فأكله الذئب. That we were running and we left Joseph with our possessions, and the wolf ate him. And you are not going to believe us even if we are truthful. The father, Prophet Yaqub, Jacob, was patient, and he waited patiently until he knows what happened to his son Joseph. Now the son was rescued from the well by a caravan that was passing by, and they sold him for a low price as a slave to a wealthy merchant, and he was raised in the home of that person, and the lady of the house tried to seduce him, but he resisted the temptation. وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. The lady of the house tried to seduce him, and he said, come on to me. He said, no way, your husband is my Lord, he treated me well, and those who do wrong will never succeed. The Quran tells us, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17, do not come near or close to zina, which is adultery, meaning having sexual relation outside of marriage, because it is a sin and a bad way to fulfill your desires. So he preferred to go to prison rather than succumb to temptation. قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه وإلا تصرف عني كيدهن أصب إليهن وأكن من الجاهلين. Prison is more beloved to me than what they are inviting me to do, and if you do not turn away their plots against me, I may fail and may long to them and be among those who are ignorant. فاستجاب له ربه فصرف عنه كيدهن إنه السميع العليم. His Lord responded to him and turned their plots away from him, because he is the all-hearing, all-knowing. Now Joseph entered prison. He did not forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he invited his prison inmates to Allah, stating that وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ أَبَيَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ, and I followed the tradition and the way of my forefathers, Jacob and Isaac and Abraham. ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء. It is not up to us to worship anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the only one. Those that you are worshipping are idols that you invented yourselves. So he invited his inmates to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the talent of explaining dreams, and he explained the dreams of his two inmates. قال أما أحدكما فيسقي ربه خمرا وما الآخر فيصلى فتأكل الطير. One of you will serve his master wine, and the other one will be crucified, and the birds will eat from his head. Now the king of Egypt at the time had a dream, and that 7 cows are eating other cows, and nobody was able to explain the dream. And one of the persons who was rescued from prison told Joseph to explain the dream of the king, and Joseph explained because Allah gave him the talent. قال تزرعون 7 سنين دأبا فما حصدتم فذروه في سنبله إلا قليلا ما تأكلون. That you plant 7 years, but you do not eat except very little, and you save the rest. ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك 7 شداد يأكلن ما قدمتم إليهن إلا قليلا ما تحصنون. There will come after these 7 years of planning and organization and planting 7 bad years that are going to devour everything that you saved except for a little. ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك عام فيه يغاث الناس وفيه يعصرون. And then will come a year that you can celebrate. The king heard about this, and he wanted him to be his advisor. And Joseph said, قال اجعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. Make me in charge of the treasures in Egypt. I am capable and I am worthy of trust. وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض. Thus we enabled Joseph to establish his authority on the land. Now, famine occurred in Palestine. Joseph's brothers came to Egypt seeking provisions and food, and they did not recognize him. He recognized them, and then he told them to bring their younger brother, and then he told them that, do you know what you have done with Joseph and his brother? They realized that he is their brother Joseph, and although he was in a position to punish them because he had the authority to do so, he did not. Rather, he forgave them. قال لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين. And no blame attached to you on this day. May Allah forgive you, and He is the most merciful of mercifuls. And he told them to bring their families to Egypt. And when they came, and he told his father that this is the explanation of my dream, and he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, acknowledging Allah's blessings. قال ربي قد آتيتني من الملك وعلمتني من تأويل الأحاديث فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة توفني مسلما وألحقني بالصالحين, acknowledging Allah's blessings on him. And his prayer was to die as a Muslim and to join the righteous among Allah's servants. And this is the dua of all the prophets, that they die submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to join the righteous of Allah's servants. Now, there are several morals that we learn from this story. One is that jealousy among brothers and sisters is common. We have to be careful not to prefer one over the other, but to be just with all of them. Second is that when we are facing adversity, we patiently persevere, as did Yusuf alayhi salam, and to turn to Allah seeking His help and His guidance, and to acknowledge Allah's blessings over us. And when we are in a position of authority, not to seek revenge from those who hurt us, rather to seek Allah's forgiveness on their behalf, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may guide them so they can do good, and to learn to invite others to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran tells us, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. O Prophet, peace be upon him, say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with clear conviction, I and those who follow me. And we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed Joseph to be thrown in the well, to be rescued, to be sold, to be put in prison, to explain the king's dreams, all of this in order to save Egypt and Palestine from famine, and to bring the family of Yaqub and Joseph to Egypt, and to establish what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. وَاللَّهُ غَالِبٌ عَلَى أَمْرِهِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah's will prevail, but most people do not know that. So this is what we learn from Quranic stories, morals that we can apply in our life. أستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه سميع قريب مجيب الدعاء.